Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and joining us for the coverage of the American Muscle Series Season 8, Race 2 at Long Beach Street Circuit. My name is Randall McGrew. I'm joined in the commentary booth by Andre Grandbouche, and in the production trailer is Joshua Wilkie on the buttons and knobs. And we have a nice, beautiful day here in Southern California, 72 degrees air temperature, 102 degrees track temperature, and a partly cloudy sky. Looking forward to 40 minutes here on Long Beach. And Andre, tell us what you expect out there today.
Well, you mentioned the track temp being pretty high. The other temp that's going to be high is the brake temperatures, because we are at Long Beach. We've got some very slow corners and some very long straightaways. So it's going to be absolute terror on these Mustangs, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch tonight. This is one of my personal favorite street courses in the country, and I am excited.
One note, we do have one driver that was moved from the pro division down to the amateur division. We'll make a note of that as we go through the standings or the starting grid this evening. Right now, we're joining the drivers. They've just started qualifying. You see there in the upper left-hand corner, they're 1 minute into their 10-minute session. They have 10 minutes to set 3 flying laps, and the tire warm-up time on these cars can take a couple laps, so we'll likely see the fastest laps on that third lap. But there's a lot of dangers around this track, so we'll see if they can avoid those. And Andre, what would you be looking out for the most in your qualifying run around here?
I would not want to overheat my tires. You need everything to be working exceptionally well to get slowed down on this track and some of these hairpins, some of these tight corners. Do not flat spot your tires. Don't overheat them. Don't mess with the brake temperature too much. Make sure you've got a good brake bias, because I think corner entry is going to be the most important thing for these guys. But for the most part, just keep it clean, keep it off the walls, see where you shake out. And if you can do that, you're probably going to be doing pretty good, because this is one tough course. You can see right here, the number 48 making his way around that iconic hairpin down into this curved straightaway. And Randall, why don't you take us on board?
Yeah, we're going to go for a tour around here, led around by Kevin Buchholz. He's just crossed the start-finish line to start his first flying lap here in qualifying. And you notice he's hugging the right-hand side of this track around that curved, not straightaway. He's going to keep the car over the right. Careful not to cross over into the pit exit here. He wants to open up the entry to turn 1 as much as possible. He clips that apex curve, brings the car to the right, and you're going to have to wind your way through this very bendy section around the fountain. Very narrow. We're going to see a lot of action there early on in the race, and then set up for turn 4, and then following another right-hander, turn 5, where you want to get over on this apex curbing as much as you can, but it can really unsettle the car as you turn on to West Shoreline Drive. Bring the car back over to the right, open up that entry for turn 6, a nice late brake, and then the track really opens up there on the outside, so you can get that wheel straight and bring the car back over to the left-hand side of the track to set up for turn 8, the turn onto East Seaside Way. And a long run, and you saw he got very close to the apex curbing, and you want to get all the way out to the exit, all the way to the tires there as well. Keep the car over to the left to open up the entry to turn 9, which is going to be a medium speed right-hander, and then a really tricky section here where you're going to use some trail braking to get around the left-hander of turn 10. It's a double apex, but you want to bring the car all the way to the left for the very tight hairpin of turn 11, the final corner on the track, and then it'll be an absolute drag race down East Shoreline Drive to complete that flying lap.
And speaking of completed laps, they are coming in, and it looks like Luis Henriquez, who did top the board in practice with a 131, currently is sitting on top of the board with a 132.390. David Moore behind him, 132.7 flat. And then you got Evan Hoopchok, final step on the podium for qualifying thus far, but we got plenty of time. That will change, I'm sure. Gotta ask you, Randall, do you think we make it through the fountain lap 1? Are we gonna have to readjust the flowers? Is the gardener gonna have to do some work, or are we making it through?
The landscapers are on standby. We will almost certainly need their services. Also, the body repair shops are on quick dial all around Long Beach, because there will certainly be some work done on these Mustangs after this race. Normally, this is the point in the broadcast where we would give you a breakdown of the points for the different divisions. But seeing as this is round 2, their finishing order last week is the points breakdown, and we're still having some issues with getting those points to load in properly, and that's on the league administrator. Gee, that guy doesn't do enough work around here to get that working right. So next week, we will have a points breakdown for you during qualifying. But right now, if you look over at the timing tower where Luis Enriquez is on top, you'll see 3 different colors. And those colors mean something. The green color is the Pro Division drivers. Their numbers are from 1 to 99, and that number 1 plate being reserved for last season's champion, Jack Sanchez. And then the blue cars are the Challenger division. Their numbers are 100 to 199, and that's kind of our middle division here in American Muscle Series. And then the numbers in red are your amateur divisions, and their numbers run from 200 to 299. And that is, I don't want to say the bottom tier, but it is the most casual tier, is what we'll say in American Muscle Series. They're not nearly as sweaty as the pro guys as we see. Ooh, that is a tough run from Mike Pico. He's actually the driver that was moved down from the pro division to the amateur division, had registered under the wrong division, realized he did not have that kind of pace, and asked to be moved down to the amateur division. And that's looks like where his home is going to be for this season. And that has nothing to do with that incident that we just saw, but it is a very tricky part of the track. So, Andre, we've talked about the fountain. We've talked about the landscaping. Clearly, that's going to be a choke point for lap 1. Where else are you worried about keeping the nose clean around here?
Got to be the hairpin. I mean, that double apex left-hander into the right-hander, it's tough when you're by yourself. But if I know the American Muscle Series, nobody's going to be by themselves. They're going to be bumper to bumper for 40 minutes, and that's just the way it's going to be. So they're going to have to be watching those brake lights. Make sure that you do not charge into the corner too hard. The hairpin is one of those sections like the fountain where if somebody gets sideways, where do you go, Randall? I mean, you don't go anywhere. You just stop and wait for the track to clear. And, you know, that's saying one thing when you're racing sports cars. You got 20 cars on the circuit. We've got upwards of 40. So if there is a bottleneck, it is going to be disastrous. We'll have to wait and see how they make it through. These guys are good. I have faith in them. I think there's going to be a little bit of carnage here and there. It's to be expected with this track, but for the most part, I've got faith. We'll see what they can do. And the end of this straightaway is a bit of a sleeper for chaos here. I think getting into that corner, taking the entry as wide as you possibly can and apexing it, it's going to be tough when you're bumper to bumper, when you're in the hornet's nest right before the fountain. It's almost like, Randall, this whole track is a trouble spot, because it is.
Exactly. And I was listening in to the drivers' meeting, and there was a lot of discussion about pit exit, how pit exit was to be navigated. People worried about cars checking up at the end of pit exit and causing a backup. Lots of discussion around that. And it's one of the trickier pit exits because it spits you out into a very narrow strip of track on the outside. And if drivers are coming through turn 1, they're going to try to blend out all the way to the outside, as we're going to watch Sean Johnson do right there. And if there's a car coming out of the pits, there could be a car blocking there, and they're going to have to run a little bit slower through turn 1. So hopefully these drivers retain enough awareness to keep out of cars coming out of the pit exit. But it could be something that spells disaster for at least one driver tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Usually it's the pit entry that we're worried about at a lot of tracks. We've been to a few circuits where it's pretty sketchy, a lot of winding corners leading up to it. But here, it is definitely going to be the exit that we are watching. And in the meantime, while we were talking back and forth, we do have a new provisional pole sitter, Matt Malone, top of the board, 131.894. Neil Kemp jumps from third to second with a 131.964. Then Luke Sudengay going to be third place. He's got a 132 flat. David Finch and then Luis Enriquez, who was top of the board. He improved his lap, but not enough. He's sitting fifth currently.
And I can speak from a historical perspective. The last time that the American Muscle Series raced at Long Beach, not only was it nighttime, but Matt Malone was engaged in an absolute elbows out battle with Iro Nam on the last lap. It was frantic, it was frenetic, and it almost spelled disaster for multiple drivers. And it was amazing to watch. And I expect we'll see another last lap battle like that here tonight.
Oh yeah, it seems like we get battles like that week in and week out, but especially you come to a circuit like this that just promotes that kind of racing, and these boys are going to take advantage of it as we ride on board into that very narrow gap into the pits. He's going to go ahead and call it a quali session. We've only got about 30 seconds left, so unless somebody's going to end it with a Hail Mary, it may just be Malone on top of the board. And the top 5 remaining unchanged. Fabian Zweier P6, Jack Sanchez 7th. And this is what I was talking about last week. Randall. Sanchez is one of the fastest in race pace, but when he can't qualify top 5 week in and week out, it makes things so much more difficult for him because he's got to get through traffic, he's got to make passes, and you're not passing any old Joe Schmoes. This is the American Muscle Series. This is the pinnacle of sports car talent as far as I'm concerned. Making passes here is not like making passes in a public series. So I would be remiss to point out that, again, he has failed to qualify a little bit further up.
Absolutely. We'll take a look here as soon as the results are official at the starting grid for round 2 of the American Muscle Series Season 8 Long Beach. On your pole position, the full-time turkey entry of Matt Malone with a 131.893. Starting alongside him, Neil Kemp in the number 99, just 7/100ths slower than Matt Malone's pace. Row 2, Luke Sudengay starting alongside David Finch. Luis Henriquez starts 5th after topping the time sheet in practice. With starting alongside him is Fabian Zweyer. Jack Sanchez all the way back in 7th place, so he's got some making up to do to challenge for this win. Starting next to Andrew Bailing, David Moore is going to be starting P9 alongside J Bass Blast. Check him out over on Twitch in the number 53 entry, and that rounds out your top 10.
Looking back from the top 10, we've got Kevin Buckles, P11. Dahan O'Toole, the man himself, qualifies P12 for Asphalt Motorsports. Evan Hoopchak going to be P13. He ran up front a little bit last week. We expect to see some speed out of that machine tonight. Chuck Labano going to be P14. And if you look back to 15th, there is Phil Keck. Now 16th is going to be our first Challenger Division driver of the night on the running order. That is going to be Jeff Andrus in his machine. Then you got Levi Powell, P17. 18 and 19 going to Brandon Brush and Cam DeDecker. Running out the top 20 going to be Taylor Ballon.
P21, Matt Thompson starting next to Sam Stoner in 22nd. Ryan Campbell going to come up 23rd to start this race, starting next to the best Matt Best, in that number 11 entry in 24th. 25th, Jeffrey Schnackle starting next to Tony Morano. Charlie Hosey is going to start 27th with Mike Pico starting in 28th. Mark Royce in 29th, and 30th will be Freddie Weaver.
Aaron That Face Bray going to be P31. Brandon Smith going to be 32nd. Andy Smith 33rd. Matthew Gazenda 34th. And you've got an amateur driver, or a pro driver, I'm sorry. Daniel McConnell is going to be in 73. How long have I been doing this? And I'm still confused by colors. Mike Neekum, going to be P36. 37th, going to be Jay Little. Eli Kloft, 38th. Tom Wendt, going to be 39th. 40th goes to Sean Johnson. Rounding out the rest of the field, we've got quite a few cars tonight. Jeff Bernard, 41. Dave Blair, John Casey, Scott Brooks, Stefan Price, Ken Estep is registered, and Chris Logan also registered in 47th. So we'll see how many of these guys make it around the fountain, but it is good to see Ken Estep registered, even if I'm not sure if he's on the track. But again, with his recovery going the way it has, we've been really happy to see that.
Ken is on the grid, so welcome back, Ken. Glad to have you back. We got about 23 seconds here before the lights will go out on this race. Lots of cars on the track. They're lined up all the way back to the hairpin. We're going to have a real exciting start to watch this pack of Mustangs pile into turn 1 and then try to navigate their way around the fountain. Matt Malone going to lead them off here shortly. In just about 5 to 7 seconds, we're waiting for Barney to get that green flag in his hand and for the lights to go out on another race here in the American Muscle Series. I hear the engines revving up any moment now. We'll see the lights come on. It will be underway. And watching, Barney, watching. Green flag is in the air, and we are underway here at Long Beach. Matt Malone not the greatest start. Neil Kipp's going to get a good jump on the outside. Let's see if he can capitalize going into turn 1. Malone fighting back in the second phase of acceleration. So far, still alongside, but it looks like Neil Kemp might even get completely clear by the time they get to turn 1. Look at him fanning out 3, 4 wide, 5 wide in the back. The midfield's going to get real chaotic here. Neil Kemp takes the lead going into turn 1. They made it so far through turn 1. They're entering the fountain section now, and this is where we expect to see a little bit of chaos. And there it goes. There goes Luis Henriquez around, and it's going to cause everybody to back up. He very wisely. Oh no! It continues, and it just becomes more and more. We see it's a parking lot around the fountain right now as drivers try to win their way through. Drivers try to get pointed back in the right direction. This is going to cause a lot of time to some of these drivers. We still see a few drivers pointing in the wrong direction, a couple drivers towing. Some drivers continue to spin around the fountain. as this all shakes out. Eli Clough gets himself clear. Tony Morano is now clear, and they continue to make their way through the fountain. This is really going to stretch out the field.
Yeah, it's stretching out the field, and it's thinning it out a little bit as well, because a few of those cars are not going to be in running order by the time this is done. And we saw a big plume of smoke out of one machine there. Couldn't quite make out who it was, but a lot of machines caught up in that, and in the meantime, the leader's driving away with it now. Neil Kemp, it worked out perfectly for him because Matt Malone got a little bit of wheel spin, not a lot, just enough to slow him down where he can keep it side by side. And because that straightaway curves to the right, technically Neil Kemp had the inside, so he had the shorter way around the corner. It got him clear and free in the lead, and that gave him a clear passage through the chaos zone of the fountain. Matt Malone following along in second. You can see Luke Sudengay not far behind as well, and David Finch, who has been running really well this year, constantly up inside the top 5. He's trailing these leaders as well, and I'll tell you what, this worked out perfectly for them. That chaos behind them gave them so much room to breathe. It is nearly 6 seconds, over 6 seconds, from Jack Sanchez to David Moore. Big separation there that you don't often see in this series. But we'll see if they can make that time back up. They've got all night to do it. We've got 38 minutes remaining, but I'm hearing, Randall, we may have a second look at what transpired.
Yeah, we got to cue up the Benny Hill theme here a little bit, I think, and I'm currently having some issues. So, Andre, can you talk us through what's going on here?
So we're riding on board here. Brandon Smith in the 197, a sea of taillights ahead of him, and it's just a bottleneck stop going in. We've got the first car spinning way up the road from him. It started way up at the beginning towards the entry to the fountain, but cars behind having to stop, and just the accordion in full effect. The accordion is closing. Can't quite make out who that first car was. We'll take a closer look at it. I believe it may have been.
Let's see here. I did see Luis Enriquez was the first one to turn, and there he goes right there. And yes, there's a few more involved, and I can look at from the timing board. It looks like Fabian Zweyer, Kevin Buchholz, Chuck Labano, Jeff Andrus, Taylor Ballant. They were the biggest losers in all of that exchange. And there was plenty of exchanging going on right there. I'm watching the sim chat right now, and the stewards chat is absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree looking into that lap 1 incident. He's going to have his hands full tonight. Hopefully, now that the field's stretched out, they won't be as busy, but we'll see how he does going forward. But don't look now that Jack Sanchez got through that clean, so he was able to make up a couple spots because of that. And we're going to take a look on board now from Luis Enriquez's view and see exactly what transpired here.
I think he had a little bit of help there, bit of a nudge.
It possibly helped himself. Maybe he thought he was clear on the inside and turned down a little bit and didn't leave enough space. It's very tight in there, so it's tough to assign blame. We're going to get another look for the chopper to see how much room exactly was given, but it's very tough to assign blame in some of these early race situations, especially in really tight sections. And it looks like, got some help. Didn't quite leave enough room, maybe.
I think it's column A, column B. I think he came down a little bit too much, and I think also maybe the car behind could have been a little bit more aware that door was closing. But I mean, you're going to have racing incidents like that, especially at a street circuit. And I'll tell you what, I don't envy you, Randall. I think you're going to be working on penalty findings until next week in the booth. So,
luckily for me, I have help doing that now, and I do very little of that.
All right, well, that makes things easier for you.
Absolutely, and like I said, Jack Sanchez was able to get through that clean. He's now up to 4th place. Luis Enriquez only down to 8th. So despite being the first car to go around there, he was able to get going in the right direction again pretty quickly and didn't lose too much time. Does have some significant damage on that car. We saw Dave Moore was a little bit involved in that, but he mostly just lost time. You see that left front damage on that Mustang of Luis Enriquez. It's seen better days, but he should, as long as the wheels are still pointing straight, he should have plenty of pace around here. And right now, he's got the likes of Dejano Toot right in front of him.
Yeah, that black and pink Mustang is fast. He is, once again, last week's winner. So we'll see if he can pick up a few positions before the night is said and done. But Dejano Toot going to be working on playing a little bit of defense here, trying to make that Mustang wide and defend this position. Maybe pick up a few points tonight here at Long Beach. And going back to that lap 1 incident, it was made worse by the fact that while Henriquez was spinning, somebody else was spinning at exactly the same time right behind him. It was actually 3 incidents that all transpired at once. And again, it's hard to catch everything, but you can just look at the scoring and timing, and you can see the graveyard of cars. A minute backing off the wall.
That was Jeff Schnackle heavily into the wall right in front of Charlie Hosey, who had to check up, and now he's going to be feeling the pressure from behind. Looks like we got Levi Powell sending it up on the inside of Camden Decker there in the hairpin. They go too wide through the hairpin, and they continue to fight down the front straightaway. So it's kicking off here. Already we're only 7 minutes into this race.
I said it before, I'll say it again. Jack Sanchez, one of the fastest in race pace. He is currently posting the fastest lap of the race, 132.1, compared to 132.2 by the leader, Matt Malone. So, again, not too many laps have been posted, and not too many of them have been clean, but just provisionally, Jack is showing a lot of speed right now. He's got some open road ahead of him to try to reel in Luke Sudengay, Neil Kemp, Matt Malone, these drivers up ahead. But we do have a bit of a replay to take a look at here. Neil Kemp got a little bit of wheel spin, and for the lead, that allowed Mr. Malone to get back around him. Same place that Kemp got it before. Matt Malone takes it back.
Absolutely. We did see one car dip into the pit lane. I wasn't sure exactly who that was. Not sure if that was regular service, somebody coming in very early for fuel, or if they possibly were just coming in for damage. But that was the leaders right behind them when they came in from pits. And you're absolutely right from what you said earlier. They are nose to tail through that hairpin right now, and they'll continue to be through that race. We have quite a few cars stricken in the pit lane right now. I don't think we've seen anybody come in for regular service quite yet. Still 34, 37, 39 cars circulating, a few cars in the pit lane. Ken Estep now just leaving the pit lane, so he had some damage in that incident as well, possibly. And we'll see where this all shakes out. But right now, your leader, Matt Malone's got a half-second gap over Neil Kemp, and then it's another second back to Luke Sudengay, and then it's it's a total of 2 seconds back to Jack Sanchez. So a tight battle forming up front at the front of the pack, and we have a good race going on. We have at least 4 drivers in that. David Finch is a couple seconds back off that lead pack, so he could possibly make up some ground as we see Matt Thompson with Jeff Schnackle all over. Here's rear bumper. Looks like Matt Thompson might be a lap down, and Schnackle really driving by Braille here. He keeps smacking the walls. He's going to have some issues with his steering if he keeps that up for much longer. These Mustangs are tough, but they're not that tough. They're not as tough as concrete. No, I'm telling you, that was intentional, Randall. Back in my days covering the 100% Cup Series, friend of the series, not this series, but friend of that series, Adam Benefiel, we were at the Chicago street course. He hit one side of the car on the wall, and he knocked the steering out of alignment. So then the next corner, we just seen him drive right into the wall on the other side. We said, Adam, what are you doing? He said, I was just evening it out, trying to get it to turn straight again. So maybe that's what is going on there with that car. But he is under pressure from Sam Stoner and Jay Bass right now, and he's going to have to get a move on and he looks a little bit wide through turn 10, so maybe some chinks in that armor starting to show after a couple contacts with the wall, and he's very wide in turn 10. They back up, and it looks like Stoner is going to get around. No, Stoner was able to recover that car. What a save. I know Jay Bass's eyes right now are as big as tea saucers seeing that big checkup in front of him, and look at the front end damage on that Mustang. Yeah, I was going to ask you, Randall, because I don't think you're going to find too many Mustangs that don't have front-end damage at this track, especially by the end of the night. How is iRacing these days as far as front-end damage is concerned? It used to be really sensitive, I remember. You'd have to worry about overheating and radiator damage at the slightest tap, but it seems like these cars are still trucking. Yeah, they're pretty stout these days. I haven't really had any issues myself with front-end damage causing engine overheating, but it is possible. Normally, if you sustain damage that will eventually lead your car to blow up, they will go ahead and issue you the meatball flag, and it'll seem like the car is perfectly fine. You're like, why do I have a meatball? And then 2 laps later, the engine goes off like a hand grenade, and you figure out why really quickly. Yeah, usually when you send a piston to the moon, you find out, oh, that's why I got the flag. We see Samuel Stoner looking to the inside, showing the nose there to Jeff Schnackles. So it looks like Schnackles having some issues with grip out there, not really able to hit the apexes as cleanly as Stoner, but he's got enough pace to carry it down the straightaway. So right now, just using that straight line pace to keep in front of Stoner, but Stoner keeps closing in under braking. So it looks like maybe Stoner is a little bit more confident on brakes than Schnackle. The Schnackle runs wide again through turn 10. This is going to open it up for Stoner. Are they going to go too wide? No, Schnackle's going to back off and let Bass through as well. Going to give up 2 spots there. Wisely, it seems, to back off instead of trying to go through that too wide. You want to slot back in, only losing 2 spots. That's going to give it to Stoner to run away with P13. So mid-pack battle's hot and heavy right now.
Yeah, taking a look at a replay here. Look at that counter steer. Keeping that thing straight. That is some Kansai Drifto out of that corner. I don't know how he saved it.
Absolutely, and with enough presence of mind to back out, knowing that there's going to be a second car there alongside before he gets going again, and able to slot back in. We rejoin live pictures right now. We see him there behind Jay Bass. Bass kind of losing contact with Stoner here pretty quickly. So Stoner may have been really getting held up by Schnackle and is now driving away and trying to track down Camden Decker.
Watching Schnackle drive is giving me heart palpitations because every corner I think he's just going to sail it into the wall. I noticed he was sliding through the corners a lot in practice. I thought he was just messing around. Unfortunately, it seems like the setup on that car maybe just isn't there for him because he is just having all kinds of issues. Luis Henriquez out of the race. What has happened here?
Oh, I'm not sure. It may have been a disconnect. I think Luis might be possibly, yeah, I see now Luis Henriquez has disconnected, so it could be a connection issue. He has been plagued by those in the past. Possibly another incident caused him to hang up the steering wheel for the night. But right now, that takes Luis Henriquez out of this race. Matt Malone still under pressure from Neil Kemp. Neil got that lead early, ended up giving it back to Malone, but he's like, I'm not going anywhere, Matt. I'm going to be here all night long. And then a little bit further back, Luke Studengay and Jack Sanchez all over each other currently for the 3rd position. Then David Finch is going to be able to come creeping in a little bit here. Maybe if he has a good pit stop, he can try to close that gap some more. But right now we have a 4-way battle for the lead, possibly a 5-way if Finch can get up there, and then it's a big gap back to Dave Moore.
Yeah, and don't look now, Randall, but the fastest of the top 4 last time by was Jack Sanchez by about a 10th. So he is lapping about a 10th quicker than the leader and slightly less so than second place, but he is just on the move. He is really picking up speed. David Finch back here qualified well. He started, I believe, around about 5th, still running in 5th as he runs. So not a bad performance out of that purple and green Mustang. Jack Sanchez a little bit wide.
We got a change of lead. Something happened with Malone. Neil Kemp is now in the lead, and Malone is under pressure from Studengay, so he's going to fall back all the way to 3rd. We do have a crash report, so we'll see if we can get a replay of that pulled up. But right now, Matt Malone going to be dropping back to 3rd place, and that's going to bring Sanchez into the fight, who's going to go immediately inside, sends it down the inside, gets the move done. Does Matt have enough for the crossover? No, he does not. That's going to promote Jack Sanchez to 3rd. Matt Malone all the way back to 4th off of one incident in the hairpin.
Yeah, we'll try to take a look at a replay when we get it dialed up and see what happened. But in the meantime, Jack Sanchez continuing his march forward. We do have the replay dialed up. Let's take a look at it. So Malone was in the lead. All is well and good. He's over the curve, coming into that double apex, the double left-hander. He's got about half a car length lead. Not much, but enough. And just a little bit too wide. An aggressive move out of Neil Kemp to get it down low, and it forced the leader out of line.
Yeah, Malone thinking discretion is the better part of valor. Here we also might have something from Luis Henriquez. We'll see here. He's right there behind Dahan O'Toole, and he gets a good run. I think this turn 6 that he just came out of. He's going to be on the outside here. This is a very tight corner. We'll see how this plays out. And yeah, he just clips the outside on his own. That's going to be heavy damage, and he just decides that's enough damage. I've had enough. Goodbye. We rejoin live pictures. Back with Jack Sanchez sitting in 4th place. He's in a good position to challenge for the lead of this race and for the overall win. It looks like right now, Neil Kemp has Evan Hoopchak in front of him. So Evan Hoopchak would have been probably, I think that was the car I seen dip into the pit lane in front of the leaders. So he was involved in an early race incident. And now a car that we normally see at the front is going to be under threat of going a lap down.
Yeah, Hoopchak has had some good speed. Last season, he was a top 10 car consistently, and he was in the top 10 last week. Now he's just kind of having trouble. Again, this track is so unpredictable. You never really know what's going to happen. But the Pro Division does have those drop weeks once again, Randall, which is, I think it's a good decision to add this track after getting the drop weeks back.
Yeah, last season we ran with the Pro Division. They didn't have any drop weeks. And League admin says that he was hoping to increase competition, and it did do that. But I think he decided that it was a net negative on the community as a whole. So he added the drop weeks back in. Probably a wise decision. See, Hoopchak now fighting to keep him on the lead lap as Sanchez is going to go for second place here in turn 9. Gets it done. A little bit loose coming out of there, but going to get it settled back down for the double apex left-hander of turn 10, and then and look at Neil Kemp pushing Evans to get out of my way, dude.
Yeah, he was not waiting around there. And the worst part is he didn't even get around him. He just pushed him further out ahead, so he's going to have to deal with him again.
And I can speak from the driver's meeting. They were told that the blue flag is actually informational only, so he's not expected to get out of the way, but he does pull over, and it does look like he lifted there and let Neil Kemp get around. So we'll see if Neil's able to open up any sort of a gap here, but we know that Sanchez, man, if he gets a whiff of a gap on Hoopchak, he's going to go for it.
Yeah, we'll see what exactly happens here, but Sanchez did lap 0.2 slower last time than the leader, so for the first time in a few laps, it's actually gone the other way. Neil Kemp pulled away slightly, but that was the lap that Sanchez had to make a pass on Sudengay, so that probably checked him up. But we'll see how it evens out now that they're single file once again. Matt Malone still P4 as we ride along. All from one move, Randall. I mean, he was in the lead, he's on top of the world, and then Neil Kemp gets a little bit of the door open. He gets the car in the perfect position. I mean, it was a clean pass, but it just forced Matt Malone out of line enough. With enough cars right behind, he had no choice but to concede 3 positions back to 4th. It's got to be devastating for that driver, knowing the speed that he has today, qualifying on pole, leading laps. Now he's got a little bit of work ahead of him.
Yeah, he was caught sleeping a little bit on that move, I think, but he made the wise decision to run wide and give up some track position, because if he hadn't, chances are he may not be in the race anymore. So he still has a chance to win this race by playing the preservation game and staying alive out there. So we'll see if he's able to maybe claw back some of those tenths on pit strategy. Right now, pit lane looking pretty empty. We see Jeff Bernard and Jay Little still in the pit lane. Stefan Price also in the pit lane. Not sure if they're in for regular service or if they're still recovering from incidents. I hear we have something from Chris Logan possibly. Andre, let's talk us through this.
Let's take a look at Logan in that 270. Let's try and see what happened. Just riding the curb, a little bit unsettled there, but nothing too big. Going to take it through the double left-hander here. 1 apex, 2 apexes. Now into the hairpin. Going to turn hard right. It might have just been he slowed down enough to flag the iRacing, and that happens a lot. Sometimes iRacing will flag something as an accident when it's just, somebody trying to get around the corner, which, personally I find insulting when I go slow enough that the service thinks I'm wrecking.
Yeah, a little inside baseball there for the viewers at home. Whenever you go below a certain speed, our racing software kind of auto detects that as a crash. So sometimes we get some false positives like that, and we do. So that's not a false positive. That is, was that Taylor Blant, or is that Evan Hoopchak possibly around?
We will try to figure that out, and it's the 185 machine.
Stoner, 165. Stoner gone around, and he's going to lose a lot of positions, and it looks like he has some pretty heavy damage on that car. We have a replay of what happened here. He's coming out of the fountain turn right there in front of Jay Bass. They've been kind of glued together all race. Gets a lot of that curb. It looks fine. Doesn't get in the wall. I'm guessing he's going to get too much of this curb, and this is going to send him around, and there he goes. and heavy into the wall. That's going to be some pretty significant damage. It looked like he kept his wheel pretty straight as he hit, so he might be good on steering, but definitely going to notice some aero difference on that flying brick.
Yeah, obviously the aero on a Mustang is not the best to begin with, but when you start smashing it into the wall and messing up the bodywork and the wing, it gets even worse. He is back up to speed, though. Oh my goodness, a little bit loose there, but we have another replay, I believe, from De Decker as we're doing a little bit of inside wall riding. He's going to bring it down pit road.
And that seems like a pretty good idea. Sustain some pretty heavy damage that lap. Probably going to come in and let the crew look at it and see how bad it is. But I'm hearing we have something out of Cam De Decker, sorry. The 133 coming through turn 9 looks pretty decent here, and then coming through turn 10, I'm guessing maybe possibly another instance of him just going too slowly or having to check up too much, and he runs a little bit wide. Yeah, he just had to throw the anchor out there, ran wide through the apex, but no harm done to anybody except for the stopwatch. Oh, hold on here. Jack Sanchez now in the lead. Where did Neil Kemp go? Have we lost Neil Kemp? And this is what happened with Neil Kemp. They're coming down the front straightaway, coming into turn 1, and does he just get this wrong? Now that looks good.
Coming into the fountain here. Takes it as straight as he possibly can. On exit. No.
Oh, no. He will be kicking himself for sure. An unforced error from the lead. We're going to take a look at it on board to rub a little salt in that wound for Neil whenever he goes back and watches this on replays. You see him coming through the fountain section. He's just going to get, just carries a little bit too much speed, runs wide, it tags that barrier there on the exit. Jack Sanchez able to avoid, so good heads up driving out of Sanchez. That happened right in front of him. He did not have a lot of time to react.
No, he did not. He was able to get out of the way about as quick as you could ask, and he kept the nose of that car clean. One of the very few clean cars remaining on the track. Luke Studengate behind him, then Matt Malone in third, but Jack Sanchez started 7th all the way up to the lead. That is +6 on the night, and he has been the benefactor of some incidents tonight. It seems like every time something happens, he's right there to capitalize. So he is absolutely having a heck of a night. He's still got the fastest lap of the race, 1:32.172 for Jack Sanchez as he continues to lead. Then Luke Studengate a little bit further back, his best lap, 1:32.59. So 4/10 off. And that's not a small difference. At a track like this, Randall, that is quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say the fastest lap is probably pretty safely in his hands as we see Chris Logan come to the pit lane, because by this point the tires are hot enough and a little bit worn. They're not going to be interested in going faster around here unless you can find something else in that car that you have been keeping secret the rest of the time. We're going to see Neil Kemp coming back out of the pit lane. So got some repairs done on that car and going to be rejoining this racing surface in 20th position. So he'll be really kicking himself over that. It's absolutely sick in his stomach. I know I would be.
Yeah, it's the worst. You know, if somebody wrecks you, you kind of take solace in it, like, hey, I got dumped. There was nothing I could really do. If something happens with your equipment, if your steering wheel fails, if your computer crashes, you know, it's like, what could I do? But when you make the mistake, you've got the lead, all you got to do is keep it clean, and you just make that little bit of a mistake, you kick yourself for it. That's the kind of thing you think about when you're falling asleep at night, and especially when it comes to a win in the American Muscle Series, it means so much. And, well, that opportunity is now gone until next week, and he's got another shot at it. But, you know, to say it was an unforced error might not be completely fair. I mean, second place was coming on strong, and I feel like maybe he just got a little bit rattled.
I can speak from experience. Having that Jack Sanchez in your rearview mirror can be quite intimidating. This lead group had kind of recoalesced into 4. David Finch is starting to fall off the back a little bit. Jack Sanchez has opened up a little bit of a gap. We have just under 15 minutes left in the race. We should be seeing some traffic coming on pit lane very quick, very soon. But before that happens, let's maybe take a look at the different class leaders as they stand. Of course, Jack Sanchez leading the way overall, leading the pro division as well. Then we have to go back to 8th place, Charlie Hosey. Despite having some damage on that car, the Charlie Hosey Truther is good. Very happy to see that he is currently leading the Challenger division.
Yeah, I am indeed the Charlie Hosey truther, and I'm glad to see him up at the top of his division. But it is not without challenge. He's got Cam DeDecker about a second back, so definitely within range to make something happen by the end of the night. And then Mike Pico, recently demoted to amateur, but maybe working out in his favor as he is the top of that class in P12. And as they grow a little bit closer to these pit stops, I want to hit you with some track trivia here, Randall. The long right-hand straightaway that we have almost didn't exist in the current year. There was almost a chicane implemented years ago, simply because of a driver named Boris Sed driving in the sports car series. Of course it was Boris Sed, but what happened was he caught fire. The car caught fire getting onto that straightaway. And because it was a right-hander and it was a little bit blind, he knew he couldn't stop and get out of the car because nobody would see that he was stopped. So he had to drive that car with fire coming up through the side panels and through the cockpit all the way to the end of the straightaway. He wound up with some third-degree burns, severe injuries there, all because of the way the straightaway was, and they were actually looking at putting in a chicane, and they couldn't figure out a way to do it with the narrow width they're working with there. So they just left it as a straightaway, and we have the track as it is.
As sad as that is, and as terrible as that is for Boris Sed, I will have to say that is probably the tamest Boris Sed incident that I've heard of. Normally, you end up with additional rules in a league when Boris Sed is involved, and that's not to slight the man. The guy is absolutely electric to watch in a road race, and anytime you get to see him, it's worth watching.
It absolutely is, and that incident in specific, he gives it a bit of a supernatural attribute, because that fire suit he was wearing when that happened was the same fire suit that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was wearing when his Corvette caught fire at Sonoma in 2004.
Oh, wow.
So he said that the fire suit still smelled like smoke, but it was the only one he had in his closet when they called him to run that race in 2009. So he ran it, and then his car caught fire. So he thinks maybe a little bit of superstition going on.
Sounds like something out of a Dungeons and Dragons game is the driving suit of fire resistance. As we see Cam DeDecker is going to rejoin. He pitted out. He was one position behind Charlie Hosey for that Challenger Division lead. So we'll see how that shakes out. Mike Pico, the amateur division, pits from the amateur division lead. He's been sitting still for a while. He's now underway again. And taking a look at some of these pit times, he had a pretty long pit stop, but Cam DeDecker, Jeff Schnackle both in for 13 and a half seconds. Matthew Gazinda was in for 13 seconds. So it looks like 13 to 15 seconds of fuel is going to be enough for these drivers. As Dave Finch, Dave Moore, and Brandon Brush are all in the pit lane right now, so we're starting to see some action.
Yeah, and speaking of action, before they come down pit road, I want to point out Matt Malone is gaining on Jack Sanchez quite significantly. He is now under a second back from the leader, but it is a busy place on pit road right now, and all these drivers going to have to try and navigate that tricky exit. We saw it before. Just a almost immediate 90-degree left-hander they got to make when they get to the end of the pit exit to get set up into that corner before the fountain. But now riding on board, just taking a look back, you'll see that corner again. He's going to have a tough time blending. There are some cars on the way. Just a tricky situation.
Absolutely tricky. Charlie Hosey reacts to Cam DeDecker's pit and comes in this lap for service. He was stopped for 14.8 seconds. So we may see him fall back into the clutches of Cam DeDecker once he comes out of pit lane. Keep an eye down the track to see where Cam's at as they come out. There he goes. He's going to lose the spot to Cam DeDecker based on pit time. Cam's going to have that inside line, and Charlie's got to go all the way out to the outside before he can cut in. So he's got not only lost the position, he's got about 2 seconds of gap in front of him to make up.
Yeah, I think he went a little bit wider than even intended. Obviously, you have to go pretty wide.
Sorry, Andre. Sorry to break in here. We do have the leaders are in, except for Matt Malone. So Sanchez, Sudengate, and Ott have all come into the pit lane. And it looks like Sudengate, no, he hasn't quite completed the jump yet. He had just qualified better, so his pit stall is further down the pit lane. Gave the illusion that maybe he was able to jump Sanchez. They're both going to get rolling at the same time. We're going to have a bit of a slow speed drag race. It looks like Sudengate got it done. So Jack Sanchez is going to relinquish the effective race lead to Sudengate, at least temporarily, while they get out of the pit lane, and then the fight will be on once again.
And how close was that? If he could have got out of his stall just a tenth of a second sooner, and got the fender alongside. He could have kept the inside all the way to the exit, but unfortunately just a little bit further back and had to concede that to Sudengay. We'll see where Malone shakes out. Obviously the jack stand not going up on either of these leaders' cars, so we know they're on the same tires. They had been through a heat cycle, obviously warming up during their stint, cooling down in the pits, and now warming right back up. Matt Malone delaying his pit stop a little bit, getting some clean air in front of that car, and this onboard is exciting. You can see Jack working that steering wheel as he is fighting for his life with Luke Sudengay. Entered this pit sequence in the lead, but giving up those positions when it counts.
Matt Malone enters the pit lane while we watch this battle on track. I will say, and I hate to bring this up, but Luke Sudengay was only stopped for 11.17 seconds, making him a contender for the Adam Thompson Trophy for fuel management. We'll see if he's able to stretch out that little bit of fuel enough to finish this race without having to save more and give up any pace. Right now, Jack Sanchez all over his rear bumper. We're going to keep on this fight because either in front of them or among them or after them will be joining Matt Malone from the pit exit. A little bit of a bump there out of Sanchez to be expected there in the hairpin. They're going to be backing up. Malone is rolling once again. He was stopped for only 8.9 seconds. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Absolutely correct. The gas is going to be an issue here. He's going to easily, comfortably retain the lead with a 2-second gap, but he's going to be in fuel saving mode for the rest of this race unless he knows something that we don't. Right now, it looks like this is going to be pretty easily a 26-lap race. We'll get him around one more time to get a final declaration on that, but we have just over 7.5 minutes left to go here. Is Matt Malone going to have enough fuel to finish?
Now, I will say this is a track where you can save some fuel. Obviously, some very low-speed corners. You can pull in the clutch. You can slow down a little bit more on entry, roll on the throttle just a little bit later on exit, and it will save you a ton of fuel. If you're doing that for the entire 40 minutes, and you can find a way to do that without giving up too much of your lap time, you can save a ton of fuel. I kind of figured that was the case with Sudengay because I can understand 2 seconds of fuel and saving that. I'm a little bit less sure about saving 5 seconds of fuel like Matt Malone has taken, so we'll see.
Yeah, he's going to have his hands full there. Sudengay was in a good position to save fuel for most of the race, so it probably will work out for him as Tom Wynn has some issues with that pit exit, gets into the exit barrier there at turn 1 and is really slow right in front of Tony Morano, who's got to do a quick driving suit check after that. We see David Moore coming out of the pit lane now. Looks to be probably the last driver to take service. Dave Moore going to be the one that stretches it out the furthest. Right now, Matt Malone leads the way over Luke Sudengay and Jack Sanchez. David Finch fallen off of that battle, so not really in contention for the win anymore. He's sitting 8 seconds back off the lead, 6.5, 7 seconds off of third place. So this is a three-way battle for the lead right now, and it's going to be heating up. Just 6 minutes to go in this race. Not very many more laps. It will be a 26-lap race. They are currently serving lap 22, so 5 laps left to go for the next time by, and we're going to see some fireworks here very soon. I can feel it. It's going to happen.
I'm telling you, there's a reason this is one of my favorite street circuits. It's got something for everybody. You know, you had a little bit of carnage at the start. You had some great bumper-to-bumper and side-by-side battling, and now you've got strategy involved. People trying to save fuel, people maybe under-fueled, people maybe over-fueled. Who knows? Maybe Jack Sanchez is the crazy one, and he took too much. We don't know, and all we can do is watch it play out and try to figure out who was right, who was wrong, and where it shakes out. But even with the different strategies, the accordion has closed. Look at this. The top 3, Matt Malone, Luke Sudengay, Jack Sanchez, bumper to bumper once again. There was a 3-second gap from first to third. It's gone.
Absolutely. Looks like Matt is indeed having to save some fuel, and it's only a matter of time until we cue Olivia Newton-John. These drivers will be getting physical here at some point. It has to happen at a tight course like this. Sometimes you have to make a passing opportunity happen using that chrome horn as a can opener.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of chrome horn usage tonight, and I think when it comes down to battling for the lead, why would it be any different? It's going to get physical, like you said. It's going to be very exciting. And I know Corey, by the way, is either watching right now or he's going to rewatch the broadcast, and I can tell you already, he's going to be so excited that you used that sound. That was his favorite.
We do miss you, Corey. We understand the situation and everything's great, but we do miss having you around. Maybe we can get you in to fill in a second chair or even a third chair some night around here and get you back onto the American muscles. Sanchez making a move for second, showing the nose, coming in to, is that turn 6? Yes, I think that's turn 6. Not going to quite get the move done, and it's going to give Sudengay the preferred line on this very, very tight turn 7 or 8. I want to say 7, turn 7, and still going to follow the line, but he is letting Sudengay know he is on notice now. I want that position. I want a shot at Malone.
You know, in the world of Supercross, when you get up behind somebody and you're real close, what you'll do a lot of times is when you get up in the air on a jump, you'll just hit the throttle, get it up on the rev limiter, and try to kind of intimidate them like, hey, I'm here, you can hear me. That's kind of what Jack Sanchez just did right there. He just let him know, hey, buddy, I'm here, I'm impatient. Although he just gave up a little bit of time there. It's the trouble turn, it's the hairpin, he gave it up.
It's very tricky to race somebody through that corner. You want to be right on top of them because you want to have the best opportunity to pass them. As we see Matt Thompson coming out of the pit lane, coming in for some late service, maybe had to get a splash and go in that car. He's going to come out well behind this pack. But sometimes whenever you're following another car through that hairpin, if you're too close, it makes you check up too much. So sometimes you want to leave a little bit of a gap to give yourself an opportunity to eat up some of that space and be back onto the throttle. We saw Luke Sudengay was into the throttle very early, and he was hanging that rear end out, and Sanchez is using every inch of track. Look at this guy.
Well, and it's this sequence of corners where it seems like Sanchez is so much faster than the two lead cars. Unfortunately, this isn't really a passing zone, so you can be faster. You're not really going to take it anywhere. Coming up is where the passing zone really is, so he's going to have to figure out how he can get a nose in on him there. But for the lead, we're getting physical. I think there might have been a little bit of a love tap there between first and second, but now down a bit of a short shoot. Matt Malone maintains the lead. You predicted it, Randall. You said we were going to see a bumper-to-bumper race for the win here tonight, and that is what we're getting. Only 2.5 minutes remaining. That's only going to be a couple of laps, and it is a three-way fist fight. Jack Sanchez down on the curb. He's sideways. He's going to have the outside going into the hairpin. Can he make it stick? No, but he'll have a good run out. Coming down the long straightaway, can he use it?
He's in a much better position this time by 2 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line. And Matt Malone, will he have enough fuel? He is loving the fighting that he's seeing in his rearview mirror. He says, keep at it, boys. Luke, fight him. Don't let him by. Don't let him by. Jack, you got to get around him. He's cheering for both of them. He wants them to fight like crazy so he can save some more fuel. And they're closing that gap back up to him really quickly. I guarantee you Matt Malone is in this fuel-saving mode right now. This sounded like a little bit of contact there. He is absolutely sending it around these corners. We'll see if he tries to make the move again, possibly in turn 6, or tries to set up a move for turn 8. Last lap, it looked like he was setting up for turn 8 and wasn't quite able to get alongside. Maybe he'll get a better run through turn 6 and 7. This time, they're approaching 6 right now. That little bend after turn 6 is counted as turn 7, so that's why I kept misremembering the numbers. He's got a good run through here. He had to have a little bit of a breather of the throttle at the apex, and you saw him with a handful of opposite lock, so he's not able to get a good move going, but Matt Malone has Sudengay all over his bumper. Sanchez may be looking to be opportunistic here, hoping that Sudengay has to check up for Malone and try to sneak one around on the outside somewhere. They're going to be coming by for the white flag this time. Who do you think is going to win this, Andre?
I have no clue. I just know that Sanchez is finding runoff on a track that has no runoff, and he's using it. So we'll have to see if he can make the move here. If Matt Malone has enough fuel, again, 8 seconds in his stall. That is far and away the quickest pit stop we saw out of anybody. It was 13 seconds for Sanchez. It was 11 seconds for Sudengay. And coming down this straightaway, they're going to come together thanks to the draft. White flag is in the air. 3 cars in contention for the lead, but it's just one more time around for Matt Malone. Remember, he led so many laps last week, did not come home with the win. It was a door banger of a finish with Luis Henriquez, but Henriquez came out on top, trying to redeem himself tonight. Matt Malone into the fountain area, 3 cars under a blanket. And how about Sudengay looking for a win as well? It's been a while since he visited Victory Lane, but could have an opportunity here into this sharp right-hander, riding on board once again with Sudengay. Man, oh man, I'm nervous for this hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely nervous as well. And I bet we're not nearly as nervous as Matt Malone is. Probably as nervous as a cat in a dog run watching that fuel gauge. Hopefully he got enough fuel packed in that car. Right now, doesn't look to be giving up any time. But Sudengate going to look to the inside here at turn 8. Kind of catches Malone sleeping. Malone going to be in the outside barrier. Sudengate to the lead. But here comes Sanchez. He might pull alongside on the run up to turn 9 and get this done on the inside. He could go from 3rd to 1st. The 2-for-1 special on order right now for Jack Sanchez. Can he get the move done? It looks like he's going to have a good run into the corner. He's going to slide and he's going to lose it a little bit. He manages to save it. Sudengate going to retain the lead. Going to have the inside through turn 10. But are they going to be side by side through the hairpin? Absolutely they are, because Sanchez is going to send it up the inside. He's going to get the win off the corner, but can he win the drag race down the straightaway? Malone looking to maybe get a spot back. Right now, Sanchez is winning that drag race, and it looks like it's going to be Sanchez for the win. Luke Sudengate 3rd. Matt Malone banging it off the wall in anger. Going to finish 3rd, and what a finish.
Oh, my goodness. What a race that was, Randall.
It's not over. Here we go, no. Cam DeDecker and Charlie Hosey for the Challenger division when they're entering turn 10. Right now, Cam DeDecker in the lead. He got that spot off pit strategy and has managed to retain it despite the insistence of Charlie Hosey there through turn 8. And Hosey's going to get a little bit loose there in the hairpin and going to end up losing that race. Going to finish 9th overall, 2nd place in the Challenger division. So Cam DeDecker going to win your Challenger division race. And right now, looks like Freddie Weaver leading the amateur division. We see a few more drivers making their way towards the start-finish line. Freddie Weaver looks like pretty comfortably there in the amateur division. Going to have a challenger right behind him, and I don't see any amateurs anywhere close to him. So Freddie Weaver going to win your amateur division race here, unless an anvil falls out of the sky and stops, and there he goes across the line. Your amateur winner, Freddie Weaver, 13th overall. That is an astoundingly good finish for an amateur driver. As we watch a few more drivers come across the line here. Neil Kemp, who was in the lead of this race very early on and had an error, and unfortunately will come home 15th.
I'm curious how Freddie Weaver got so far ahead of Pico. What happened to Mike Pico? Because last we checked, Mike Pico was clear and away in the amateur division, but then Freddie Weaver out of nowhere taking the victory. So maybe something during the pit sequence, or maybe just outright pace, not entirely certain, but a great run.
We're going to take a look at what happened with Pico. It looks like right now he's back in 19th position, sorry, that's the live timing. It looks like he's right there behind Freddie Weaver. So Freddie Weaver is right there in front of him. Freddie Weaver has to check up a bit. There's a big check up in front of them in the hairpin. So maybe that caused him to slow down. That's one incident. That doesn't look like what caused the gap. We didn't see him go around. Possibly another incident. We see he's right there behind Freddie Weaver again as they go through turn 9 and then maybe turn 10. I suspect maybe some argy-bargy into the hairpin. Another slow car on the inside that looks like Jeffrey Schnackle on the inside, and they get to racing, and yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened that put Pico so far back, but they were fighting heavily for that amateur division win.
Yeah, so Freddie Weaver must have got him on pace, and then something else happened. But you can see race winner Jack Sanchez doing a little bit of celebratory burnouts here. Not too many places to do burnouts on this track, but he found a place in that number 1 machine. What a finish. It was just a full-on brawl between those top 3. And there is your amateur winner, Mr. Weaver, doing a bit of a burnout as well, winning the division.
I hate to gush too much about drivers, but I do want to gush for a moment over Freddie Weaver. This makes me happy. I keep referring to the league administrator as if it's a different person, and it's not. The league administrator is me. When Freddie Weaver came into this league, I don't want to say he was a liability, but he was very much off the pace and struggled a lot, and it was rough a few times. To see him now get an amateur victory, I cannot wait for this interview.
Yeah, sometimes, a driver puts in the work, they put in the time, and they slowly improve, and that is exactly what Freddie Weaver did. And I remember exactly what you're talking about. Not too long ago, him getting a division win seemed to be a ways out, and now here he is doing some burnouts. He's on top of the pylon for his division. It's been a big journey and a big improvement for the driver of that 229. like you said, Randall, you love to see it.
Yeah, we've seen over 8 seasons, we've seen so many drivers that have improved their abilities with this car, improved their I-rating because of what they do in this league, just improve overall. The community loves to help each other out. We have a team set up in Garage 61 so that people can share setups and telemetry. It's very open around here, and drivers just continuously keep improving, keep punching more and more at a heavyweight caliber, and it just makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. With that said, we'll try to go through the official results here. We know Jack Sanchez, that championship #1 driver, managed to come in with the win over Luke Sudengay by nearly 0.4 of a second. You wouldn't guess it, how close that race was by the timesheet, but man, absolutely went down to the last corner. Matt Malone ends up coming home third. David Finch in fourth. Dahano Toot and the Asphalt Motorsports entry comes home 5th place. Brandon Brush going to finish in 6th. Jay Bass, we saw him with a little bit of an incident, but manages to finish 7th. Cam DeDecker with your Challenger Division win finishes in 8th place overall, right in front of Charlie Hosey in 9th. Daniel McConnell rounds out your top 10.
Outside of the top 10, Ryan Campbell, P11, Phil Keck going to be 12th place. Freddie Weaver with an Amateur Division win, 13th overall. Tony Morano up through the grid. Tony gained 12 positions from where he started, P14. 15th goes to Neil Kemp after leading so many laps, just a mid-race mishap took him down the pylon. Matthew Gazenda going to be P16. Brandon Smith, 17th. 18th goes to Andy Smith. 19th, Mike Pico. And P20 going to go to Dave Blair.
P21 sees Scott Brooks start finishing in front of Aaron That Face Bray in 22nd. Sean Johnson comes home 23rd in front of Tom Wint in 24th. Eli Clough, the second Taco Bell entry, finishes the race in 25th, with Matt Thompson finishing in 26th. 27th, and some of these, and actually from Matt Thompson on back, were either involved in that first lap incident or were involved in heavy incidents later. Chuck Labano in 27th. Evan Hoopchak in 28th, Dave Moore in 29th, Levi Powell in 30th, Jeff Andrus 31st, Jay Little 32nd, Andrew Bailing 33rd, Jeff Schnackle going to finish 34th. The best Matt Best, going to come home in 35th position. 36th is going to go to Taylor Bellant. 37th, Samuel Stoner. 38th, Chris Logan. 39th, Stephen Price. 40th, Jeff Bernard. 41st, Luis Enriquez, we saw had an unfortunate incident. Mike Darknut Neekum, the sponsor of the American Muscle Series. Check out the D-Nut Stuff shop on Etsy. Going to come home in 42nd in his first race of the season. Mark Royce finishing 43rd. Fabian Zweyer finishing 44th. 45th, Kevin Buckholz. John Casey, 46th. And is that Ken Foster? Ken Estep in 47th position. And that should round out the field. 47 cars took the green flag. Not all of them, unfortunately, were able to finish, but we had an exciting race after all of that. 40 minutes of just nonstop action. And guess who I found, Andre? I have your race winner, Jack Sanchez. Jack, tell us about that last lap, dude.
Well, this track kind of is tough for overtaking, right? With that hairpin, it tends to kind of just reset everything at the next lap, no matter what progress you make, because it just accordions so bad, and any run you try to, anyway. Yeah, so I was just kind of, I know how I'd passed Luke the first time, and I started applying the pressure in the last lap the same way, and he threw a glorious dive onto Malone for me, and I just had to not get entangled in that, and keep it, inside, because what are they going to do if they can't also, get around this silly hairpin? So, yeah, I managed to scrape through a couple of pretty wild incidents for this one, and pretty happy with the result.
Yeah, we definitely noticed both on lap 1 and later when Neil Kemp had his incident that you had some heads up driving and were very quick to react and get out of the way of that, keeping that car clean. So good job there. How did you find the 40 minutes overall, though? Was the track temp very painful? Were the tires really screaming at you?
Yeah, well, I knew from practice that left rear gets smoked. So you basically were hoping to kind of stay in a nice train, taking it easy and, waiting for those later moves. But once again, with that first lap incident, like last race, I kind of end up with a gap I have to close down. push hard, heat the tire up, and I luckily was able to kind of close down and just manage on the cusp of that point where it starts to get too much. But yeah, overall it was wild. I mean, it sounds like you guys didn't see Schnackle lose it down the straight either later on, and that was a wild one too. So yeah, I'm just happy I got the car home.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, so it was impossible for us to catch everything. And Jack, I'm sorry, but I have to ask, we've seen you at the sharp end of the field both races now, but your qualifying hasn't quite passed the muster of what we normally see out of you. When are you going to be starting up at the front of one of these races?
So Eli and I actually both were streaming out our perspectives, and iRacing was bottling my laps, and I'm so glad that the third one came in clean. I have the stream footage. My second lap was good for pole by 1/2 tenth. So yeah, we're gonna have to evaluate that, and hopefully get those poles here in the future.
Well, we love to see you every week out here doing what you do. And before we let you go celebrate this win, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Thank my family, my dad and sister, and always making food and being around, being good folks, and yeah, Eli being a good friend. So yeah, Team Vapor, go.
Well, congratulations on the win, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking to you a couple more times this season.
Hopefully. Have a good night.
That was your race winner, Jack Sanchez. And Andre, did you manage to track down Cam DeDecker?
Yes, I did, Mr. DeDecker. You got a copy?
Yep, copy.
Well, I'll tell you what, Cam, you had a beautiful pit stop. It got you the track position you needed, but it was not easy sailing. Obviously, you had Charlie Hosey right behind you applying the pressure for, upwards of 10 minutes straight, but you held on and you kept the position, winning your division for the night. This was a chaotic race, and for you being in traffic all night long, I'm sure you saw the brunt of it. Tell me a little bit about your night.
Well, I had a horrible start. I think I lost like 6 positions off the start. I could not stop spinning, which threw me. I guess that kind of saved me, realistically, because I then, instead of being on the accidents, I was just coming up onto them. I think, and then Jeff Andrews still hit me, but luckily I was able to get away with only minor damage on that. And then, yeah, it was just about trying to keep it without wrecking this track. Every time I've been practicing, I've been spinning, so to come away without spinning was insane. And then, yeah, I actually can't believe I did that on the pit stop. I think that might be my best pit stop ever. I actually think I nailed the wall going into the pit stop on the left-hand side, because I remember hearing it, but I'm not sure if it was netcode. So I almost thought I had damage. But yeah, coming out 2 seconds in front of Charlie was wild.
Yeah, it was definitely a big benefit there, but you nailed the pit stop, got the sequence in and out. You mentioned spinning, and the track temp going into the night was about 126 degrees on the blacktop, which is going to be a little bit slick. I mean, how was the driving condition out there? Were you expecting it to be that slick and that warm, or were you kind of ready for something a little bit different?
I always feel on these, like Detroit and this type of track, that it's always super slick. But especially here, I've always had issues. So yeah, going into it, I was expecting it to be slick, and pretty much all of the corners I would half throttle it out. I was never super easy on it, try not to spin.
Sometimes playing it smart is the play, and it was tonight as you got your division win. Now, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to shout out?
Oh yeah, shout out to Jeff Schnackle and Levi Powell, the homies with the Velcro Patriots. I mean, we were just kind of talking throughout the entire race about the accidents going on. It was insane.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing what you can do all throughout the season. I think you're going to be putting on some good shows just like tonight, battling it out in your division, and we can't wait to see. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next week.
Yep, thank you.
All right, that is going to be the Challenger winner out of the booth. But Randall, it's time to have a talk with your boy.
Freddie Weaver, one of the guys with one of the most entertaining paints week in and week out. You get yourself the amateur division win after being involved in a very heated battle with Mike Pico. Tell us what it was like out there for you tonight, bud.
Wow is all I can say. He was all over me, and then all of a sudden I lost it going into that turn 1, and I was like, no. And I started to run him back down, I think. And then he pitted, and then I pitted a lap later, and I don't know what happened to him, but he was no longer in front of me. Oh, I was excited to see that.
I bet.
What a race.
So it's good to see you with an amateur division win. I know your start here in American Muscle Series was a little rocky. What have you been doing to get better in the car and in the sim to get yourself up here to a division win?
Well, upgrading equipment and actually racing. So that first season 6, that was pretty much my first road racing that I've done. I tried to practice a little bit before it started. As you see, I was not very good. Season 7, I started doing a little better, but I'm hoping this is my season. I want an amateur championship and then maybe move up to challenger.
Absolutely. We love to see new winners around here, and welcome. Is this your first division win, or maybe you got one before? Possibly.
No, this is the first. This is my best finish, first win. Last year at Brands, I was leading, and then I wrecked and had some pit penalties. So all pit penalties, then I wrecked. I was frustrated, but this is the first.
Well, congratulations, sir, on your first division win. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go celebrate?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with all the crap that I do down here on the simulator, and thank all these guys that I race with. I mean, they're great. They help you out with setups. They help you out with if you need some, how do you take this turn, how do you take that turn kind of thing. AMS guys, they're just great. Wonderful people.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations once again. And Freddie, hopefully this isn't the last time we talk to you this season.
I hope not, but Pieko, I think he's going to give me a run, so we'll see. It'll be him and I, and hopefully went golfing. Hopefully he gets one too. I'd like to see that. Some of the other guys.
Well, congratulations again, and have a good race next week.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. Thanks, guys, for having me.
That was your amateur division winner, Freddie Weaver, and that wraps up the interviews. And oh my gosh, Andre, what a race tonight.
It was definitely a race. That was one of the most fun races I've been in the booth for in quite some time. Random stat about tonight's race, I want to point out, Daniel McConnell was the biggest mover, up 25 from where he started. He finished 10th, so passed the most cars out of anybody. And I would not be surprised if plus 25 is not top for the rest of the season, because I think the chaos at the start of this race definitely contributed to that. That is just an abnormally large amount of passes. I wanted to point that out. But it was fun. A great battle at the end. Luckily, the carnage wasn't so bad that it robbed us of actual competitive racing, and a little bit of strategy, a little bit of fuel saving. It was great. I don't know what else to say.
Absolutely. The American Muscle Series delivers once again, and I know for sure that Josh is going to be dialing it up here soon. We do have more broadcasts coming your way this week. On Wednesday, we have the Sim Racing Group. I know that they're going to be racing this week, as we're going to tell over that. Possibly. He's going to find the right button eventually, folks. So Tuesdays, every Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, you'll catch the American Muscle Series right here, and then you'll see the Mustangs every week. Tuesday, we take off for iRacing week 13, so right at the mid-season, we have a break, and then on Wednesdays, you're going to have the Ray Esports Club Racing League taking place at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and 9:45 p.m. Eastern is going to be the Sim Racers Group. So 2 broadcasts for you to catch on Wednesday nights. And then we have a busy weekend here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. I know that the weekend warriors fill up all of our time. On Saturdays, you get the Formula Vs. And then on Sunday, you get the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords. Exciting races every week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Stay tuned here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for all of your exciting racing viewing opportunities. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You know every time Slow Motion Broadcasting goes live, you won't miss a single race. And Andre, final thoughts on tonight, bud.
Final thoughts are I'm even more excited for next week than I was before. I love this league. I love this series, and just races like this are why. 3 cars duking it out at the line, having a drag race to the start finish after 40 minutes. You gotta love it, and I gotta say this track is just phenomenal. I hope that in future seasons it does come back occasionally. I know we've been here before, and making a return was a lot of fun, but we have some other great races I'm looking forward to, Watkins Glen in particular.
And speaking of next week, the Mustangs are going to be taken to Mugello for the first time ever. So they did run a preseason race there. So some drivers got a feel for the track, but we'll see the first time everybody takes that track in anger. So be back here next Tuesday to watch that action. And for Andre Grandbouche on commentary and Joshua Wilkie in the production booth on buttons and knobs, my name's Randall McGrew. Thank you for watching Slow Motion Broadcasting and the American Muscle Series. Good night.
Thank you.